Committee members for taking time to hear the testimony on 1508 this morning. For the record, I am Lynette Peterson. I represent Hillsborough 21, which is the town of Merrimack. And I am just going to basically introduce this bill and let the experts do all the talking. I am going to just give you one example of Common Core math and a problem that you would find in a 4th grade math book. We'll say Mrs. Jones has 18 students. She asks them to count off by a certain number and make sure they end at 90. Now, with Common Core, what you would do is you would make 18 dots across your paper, and then you would fill in your dots, or you would make an array to get your answer. And hopefully they would come up with the correct answer. They would have 18 rows with 90, they'd have 90, they'd come up with the answer of 5, hopefully with all their dots, once they count all their dots. Old math, they learn their multiplication tables, they figure division tables, they take 90, divide by 18, they come up with 5. Now I ask you, which way's quicker? Which way's more efficient? And with that, I'm going to let the experts do all the talking. I'll stay as long as I can. I have a full day down in judiciary, and I may skip out before it's over.
Well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Representative Chris Munns, and I represent the town of Hampton in Rockingham County District 21. I'm also the at-large representative and chairman of the Winnicott High School Board, which serves the towns of Northampton, Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook. I'm here to speak in opposition. I have prepared some written testimony that's going around, so I won't take up a lot of your time. I guess my message is that the Common Core will better prepare our students for the realities of the current economic environment that we live in, where our kids are not only competing with other kids in New Hampshire or New England, but they're competing with kids across the country and across the world. And the standards that have been created, I think, will do a much better job of preparing them for that reality and allow them to be employed in New Hampshire and hopefully bring jobs to them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Representative Jane Cormier. I'm from Belknap District 8, the towns of Alton, Barnston, and Gilmanton. And I come to you in support of 1508, basically because I have many constituents and actually citizens throughout the state that have contacted me with regard to questions about Common Core and specific questions that have not been answered. And I feel these so vital that until we get the answers to these questions, we should terminate. We should stop and do not pass go until we have the answers to these questions. For the time, I know that we have a lot of time, so I'm not going to do anything except go through the 4 questions quickly. And I would suggest that as legislators, we need to find out if we have answers to these questions. We haven't been able to get them yet. Where were the parents and the taxpayers brought into the discussion of the implementation of Common Core in New Hampshire? This was brought in July 2010. I can tell you the communities of Alton, Barnston, and Gilmanton there were no public hearings, there were no forums, there was no education to the parent or the taxpayers about Common Core in our communities. And I know from the voluminous numbers of people that have contacted me since I've been sort of a lightning rod for this issue, many people in this community have said the same thing. It was there and parents just didn't know about it. That is a serious question. What is the actual price tag of Common Core to our communities? What's it going to cost to put these subsequent assessments into place? There has never been, despite the fact that I have attended a number of DOE board meetings, public forums, hearings, this question has been asked of the New Hampshire DOE again and again, and we have never received a response of the fiscal responsibility. What is this going to cost our towns and our communities and our taxpayers to implement? There's no answer that has been forthcoming. Number 3. We have been told that by Commissioner Barry once at a board meeting in January that the Common Core was not voluntary for our communities. Then later on in Bedford, the statement was made that they never not adopted Common Core, but they only endorsed, quote, the standards. Okay, so which is it? Is Common Core voluntary to our communities here in New Hampshire? Or is it a state mandate that has never been clearly defined? How can we as legislators say that we are comfortable with that status for our constituents? Clearly, we need an answer to that. The data mining. This has been another issue, though we have spoken at several forums, a number of citizens, about the concern that we have about our children's and our families' data that's going to be part of these assessments. We've been told a range of answers that that's not happening, that that's not true, that's just fear-mongering. I've heard all of that. I've heard that, oh, well, New Hampshire has laws on the books that's going to stop or prevent that from happening. And I've also heard that there's no concern about that, don't worry about it. The truth of the fact is in December 11th, our U.S. Department of Education changed the federal FERPA laws. I've read them. You can read them too. They're very easy to find on the net. And they changed who can receive this information. In the past, it stayed in district, and there was a component of parental permission that has been removed. And, quote, authorized representatives, quote, personally receive access to non-student personal data. This data can be shared with, quote, trade unions, non-governmental agencies, and companies who develop educational products and services. And that does include the folks here in New Hampshire.
Representative Cormier,
Those are the
5 minutes,
that's
you asked
fine.
for 3.
That's right. Those are the 4 questions, and I believe that those need to be answered, and until we have those answers, we should not go any further. Thank you.
Question?
Do you have a copy of your testimony?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for providing your testimony, Representative. I think you said you represent Alton, and if my memory serves me correctly, did not their school board say no to Common Core? And could you tell me what are they doing instead?
Thank you for the question. Common Core was adopted shortly after, I believe in July of 2010, right after they were put into effect, 5-0 on our school board. And when we spoke to our school board members, many didn't have any of the information about the assessments, all of the important information, in fact, that they needed to have. When we put that information before our board, my goodness, some months ago, we asked for another vote. And that vote changed 3-2 to not have Common Core become part of the curriculum or as the program of educational curriculum in Alton. And since then, I think Manchester's had issues with it. Communities all in New Hampshire right now are having a lot of discussion about whether or not they can actually do this, but Alton did do it. So,
Thank you for your Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon the decision that Alton made, can you report to this committee what changes they have made in their curriculum to be more rigorous than the Common Core?
wow, rigorous is a difficult definition. We have not been able to define through the DOE what rigorous really means. But for your question, I think most of the debate that's happening right now in Alton is trying to figure out from the DOE what assessment we can have, since we do not want to follow the Common Core. And that's what most of the discussion has been about. There has been talk that there are standards in Massachusetts that our school would like to use, which were tremendously rigorous for many years. Massachusetts was the #1 with regard to student assessment testing.
Just as a follow-up, but Massachusetts has adopted the Common Core.
You know what, Massachusetts has, and right now Massachusetts is going through a big debate about whether or not it should have done so.
But they have adopted.
They did adapt it. Many states did for Race to the Top funding.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
My name is Peter Hansen, Representative Peter Hansen, representing the town of Amherst, Hillsborough County, District 22, and I will be brief. I would ask the committee to consider the fact that with all the discussions that are going on about this program of Common Core, that not to support this bill would essentially be putting every child that's in the New Hampshire educational system into, as a rat in a lab. There is so much that is not being said, that has not been sorted out, that essentially we would become a testing area for things that have not yet to be settled. I would also say that if you want to compare the United States educational system to other countries or the rest of the world, once they put a man on the moon, then we should be concerned about that.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative, any further questions for Representative Hanson? I'm sorry, I missed your name. Couldn't read your authentication.
Thank you, Representative. For the record, my name is Marjorie Porter. I represent Hillsborough District 1, the towns of Hillsborough, Antrim, and Windsor, and I apologize for my voice, so I'll be very brief. I have been a public school teacher for most of my life, and I left public school teaching on purpose in 2002 because I was opposed to the No Child Left Behind Act, as well as standardized testing. I continue to maintain my abhorrence for the over-testing of America's students. However, I'm here today to speak in support of the Smarter Balance test. You don't know how much of a change that is for me. The Smarter Balance test, we are required still by law to give tests to all children in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. That is the law of the country. And when I look at the Smarter Balance test and compare it to other standardized fill-in-the-bubble tests that I've experienced in my career, I must say, if we have to have a test, I'd rather have it be this one. It's computer adaptive. It allows children to move along at their own speed. The results are more reliable. The information gotten from it helps teachers to help students to learn in their best capacity. In addition, New Hampshire serves as a testing ground state for this test. It allows us to have greater input into the development of the test and gives us the hand, the control. Our No Child Left Behind waiver provides that we do not use the results of these tests for several years in teacher evaluation. And I'm not particularly concerned about data mining because I know Representative Kirk and Representative Cordelli are working closely on that issue. And if you can't trust Representative Kirk for privacy issues, I don't know who you can trust. So with that, I'll close my testimony. Thank you very much.
My name is Brenda Grady, and I represent Hillsborough 21, which is the town of Merrimack. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today because you're dealing with issues that are near and dear to my heart. I am a retired high school teacher. I was chairman of the science department of my large town. I have been a school board member. I have dealt with curriculum revisions for science and math and health in 2 different cities. It is something very close to me. And because of that, I want to say that the Common Core comes, I think, as close as you can possibly get to what we all think we want for our students, and that is excellence. Excellence. Excellence in their learning and their understanding. That is a big difference. Prior standards have gotten better, but they're a long, far cry from where we should be. New Hampshire has done a very good job. We heard that Massachusetts has done a very good job. The point is that proficiencies in every state vary. You can take a student who claims to have scored a certain score in one city, in one state. It's a far cry from another state. And that's because their standards are written with such variability that some states who may rank in 2007, states were ranked according to their rigor and the proficiencies in how well the students matched. We found that New England states were much higher, but there were some who earned D's and F's in their proficiencies because their expectations were so low. How can we expect in a mobile society that a student who crosses the border could vary that greatly because the expectations of the standards of that state are so low?
I will have to.
All right. So, Chairman Gile, honorable members of the House Education Committee, I'm Representative David Murakaki for the record from Nashville's 5th Ward. I also chair the Curriculum and Evaluation Committee of the Nashville Board of Education, which governs SAU 42, and I'm pleased to see I have other board members here with me. Of the various bills that I've sponsored this year, I'm most often asked, so Dr. Murakaki, why did you sponsor HB 1508? Because we know you don't absolutely hate the Common Core, you're just primarily interested in getting the assessments pushed back for a bit. Well, that's basically correct, but really, the reason why I decided I would sponsor this bill, it's a simple bill, is that if you read it, what you find out is that, number one, it removes the state from mandating the Common Core. But it does not prohibit the local school districts from adopting the Common Core on a voluntary basis and to implement it as needed. You know, in the past, for example, some of our towns, like Bedford, adopted the International Baccalaureate program on their own at the vote of their elected board. I think that the Common Core should be the same way. If you like the Common Core, and I'm sure some districts will, then adopt it. If the state removes itself from the Common Core, my assumption is that we're going to fall back to the legacy math and ELA grade level expectations. And from what I've heard, and from my own study, it would seem that the Common Core standards actually meet up to those GLEs. So if the school district does in fact choose to adopt voluntarily the Common Core, then it automatically satisfies the previous New Hampshire grade level expectations for math and ELA. This state has stated on numerous occasions that it is not going to reimburse the districts for the cost of implementing the Common Core. By the way, I've emailed the committee just this morning a National Conference of State Legislators web page that actually describes the cost estimates of implementing the Common Core. So it is more than zero, I will tell you that. So the thing is, it's also true, and I'll just read very, very briefly from Title 15 Education, RSA 186:5. It shall be the duty of school boards and employees of school districts to comply with the rules and the regulations of the state board. Shall be the duty. Now, I don't know if any of you are attorneys, I'm not, but I'm also fairly familiar with contract law. Will, must, and shall. Those are the three words. Shall is the strongest. It is an absolute, unwigglable mandate law. Shall. And this basically means that we elected members of school boards across the state and our administration of the SAUs we govern are bound to obey the dictates of the Common Core. The Common Core was adopted by the State Board of Education. I provided a copy of the implementation framework for Common Core as part of this written testimony. And so I asked this committee, please go ahead and support this bill and allow the districts to adopt Common Core voluntarily with their own funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for Representative Montaki, Representative Bone?
Pretty quick there, Madam Chair. As you know. I've been known to just use a couple of words that I gave attention on the issue. So I'll be on good behavior. Thank you. For the Representative, I probably should have been here earlier, but I was in committee myself. But Representative Al Baldessaro, Rockingham County, District 5, which is Londonderry. I had an opportunity to go to and talk with some teachers on the side there that will not go and talk with their educator or their superintendents. We're fortunate in my town, Londonderry, we spend a lot of money in education. I think we spend about 14, almost 15,000, close to that per kid. So we take it personal on education. This is like No Child Left Behind, the Race to the Top, now Common Core is unfunded to the communities. Very simple. Massachusetts, I got a lot of family in Massachusetts. I wish that we took a look at Massachusetts and see what they were doing right for many years. But they took the carrot, they took the money, whatever. Why would you give up the Massachusetts way and go to Common Core, which dumbs down? Okay, there's a lot of problems with this system here. I don't have kids in the schools no more, but my wife now has 2 children. They think it's crazy. They don't like it. They said it's nothing like before. One size does not fit all. And I'm gonna be real quick here on just a couple other areas. I already said it's an unfunded mandate. There's assessment issues, there's privacy issues. We don't like real ID here. Republicans and Democrats voted it down. Why are we giving up our information on our children to a third party? I went to the education convention in Boston, and it's a shame on what the Governors Association want for this here. And I'm hoping we stop it and give it to local control. Manchester did the right thing, Alton did the right thing, and I don't know if Nash was moving that area. But there's a lot of issues in my town with parents on this here. Local control, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Is that
and for
fast?
the brevity of your testimony, Representative Baldessaro. Questions? Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, my name is Katie McLaughlin, I'm from Hampton Falls. I support this bill. I do also support standards and accountability, but not in the Common Core way. I have 4 children of my own, and I can see firsthand how they are so very different. They all learn differently and they all test differently. This is much too close to a one-size-fits-all approach to education. I recently looked at the website of an SAU in a nearby town, and I looked through their math standards. It was very detailed. If my child was in that classroom, any of my children were in that classroom, I would have no choice as a good parent but to pretty much redo all the math lessons every night because they would not be on level for my child. Common Core allows for only 15% deviation from the standards. I do not believe that's enough. My husband and I both have STEM degrees. I believe that we were both able to attain those because we started algebra in 7th and 8th grade. We both also received full ride scholarships to college, and my husband received full ride scholarship for his master's degree, again in engineering. I know that for my children, several of them are on track to do the same thing. And it would be very sad if they were in a school that all of a sudden could not have the funding to supply those classes early enough for them. In short, I have big concerns about the Common Core implementation. It has not been deliberated enough. And while we hear that it is not curriculum, we all know that curriculum ends up dictating standards. New Hampshire can do better by not telling everyone what to learn and when. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from Ms. McLaughlin? Seeing none, thanks again.
Thank
you. Welcome again.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dave Juvet. I'm a Senior Vice President with the Business and Industry Association, New Hampshire Statewide Chamber of Commerce, speaking in opposition to House Bill 1508. As I mentioned in my previous testimony, the BIA supports the implementation of the Common Core, thus we're opposed to this bill. I would like to briefly read a letter from Tom Raffio. He is one of the co-chairs of the Business and Education Coalition. With your permission, Madam Chair, could I do so?
Yes,
Dear Chairwoman Dial, I'm writing in my capacity as CEO of Northeast Delta Dental, the chairman of the New Hampshire State Board of Education, and also the co-chair of the Business and Education Coalition, to express my strong support for the New Hampshire College and Career Ready Standards, including the English Language Arts and math portions based on the Common Core state standards. I have great confidence that the Smarter Balance test will meet the needs of educators as they use this assessment as one measure of student achievement. Northeast Delta Dental relies, as do many other major New Hampshire corporations, on New Hampshire public education at all levels. We require critical thinkers who can engage our customers in literate and confident ways and solve problems that require strong foundation knowledge in a range of math, statistical, and writing skills. With the adoption of the Common Core standards, New Hampshire companies can be confident that our educators share that goal.
The State Board of Education endorsed the Common Core standards in 2010 after years of work with the New Hampshire Department of Education alongside their peers in other states. The department and hundreds of New Hampshire teachers reviewed each draft of the standards in detail and provided feedback that we then saw reflected in subsequent drafts. We felt as if we had a strong voice in the development of the new standards. Now, after years of committed work by teachers and district leadership getting the new standards into classrooms across the state, teachers are seeing the benefits, and we hear strong support from all corners of New Hampshire. Our educators see the Common Core as a major step forward for New Hampshire children. Northeast Delta Dental applauds the dedicated work of our New Hampshire educators in putting these improved standards to work in classrooms for our students. I am aware, as we all are, of controversy surrounding the standards and the difficulties some states have had in implementing the standards in a way that benefits children. That is why I am all the more proud of our accomplishments here in New Hampshire. I'd like to, without going through the entire letter, Madam Chair, I would just like to say in closing, Tom Raffio, who again is President and CEO of Northeast Delta Dental, would like to convey his support for the Common Core and the unanimous support of the New Hampshire Coalition of Business and Education, a group that he co-founded with Fred Coker. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here and providing your testimony. I was just curious about the Business and Industry Association's examination of the Common Core standards prior to issuing your support for it. Have you investigated the standards? Have you read the standards? Talked to anyone on either side of the issue? Or maybe some of the critics even, to see where they think the standards are deficient?
Thank you for the question. I have personally read the standards, and staff has worked closely with the Department of Education, the School Administrators Association, and various individual organizations that are involved in supporting public education in New Hampshire. The decision to support was one that was discussed in a board level. It was a board level decision, and it was a unanimous decision on the part of our 34-member board to support the standards.
Follow-up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for taking my follow-up question. I was just wondering if you might have examined any of the literature that have been made public by people who were involved in the development and validation of the standards who were opposed to them. I think there'll be testimony provided here in written format. Maybe you would like a copy of that to look over in consideration of some of the critics.
I'd be happy to take a look at it, Representative Cordelli. I suspect I probably have already seen a lot of the criticism from those individuals who are opposed to Common Core. My belief is they represent a small minority of those who worked on development of Common Core standards.
Good morning, my name is Laura Alazam. I live in Londonderry. I have 5 kids in school, and I fully support this law. Just one quick example of why I do, aside from all the evidence that shows that states who have moved forward with this have had disastrous results, and people very angry about the way it's gone. I think it's a lesson we need to learn from them. Here in my own town, we took a look at, or the school took a look at the standards, compared to the standards they already had in place, felt that the standards they had in place already did a good job, and that the students were doing a good job, and that there wouldn't be a whole lot of the Common Core that they would need. They felt that they matched up pretty good. However, there was enough concern about the smarter balance assessments and the privacy concerns that the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and others have sought to get a waiver from Smarter Balance. That was about 3.5 months ago that I first heard about the possibility of a waiver. They've been in contact with Commissioner Barry and others, and yet I wait to find out whether or not we'll be able to obtain a waiver, because it isn't up to her, and it isn't up to the school board, and it isn't up to me as a parent, and it isn't up to anybody in New Hampshire. Apparently, it's up to someone in the federal government. And this really aggravates me, because I live in a town that's known for its very good educational system, and now I have to wait to hear from someone in Washington who believes that there should be a cradle-to-career education continuum that they oversee to decide how my kids are going to be taught and how they're going to be assessed. And all I have to say further about the assessment is, If you support Common Core in New Hampshire, and that you need to understand that all it does is set the table for smarter balance. And I hope that someday, when my child's private information is used in a way that is detrimental to my child or to me, then I hope you can look me in the eye and explain to me why you gave their information away. Because that's what we're doing by adopting Common Core. We are setting the table to give our children's privacy away. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair will recognize
Your time and allowing me to speak in regards to this issue.
you asked for 3 minutes.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Anna Brink, and I reside in Manchester, and I am here to testify in support of House Bill 1508. As a high school mathematics teacher, I've attended many graduate courses in professional development in regards to the Common Core. And they essentially amount to education professionals trying to persuade us teachers why we need to change our time-honored and proven methods of education. I'm a very stubborn person, so I always ask why. What is the proof? Where is it? At a recent conference, right here in Concord, the presenter said, well, I have a slide that explains this, there's a study, but I've neglected to include it in my presentation. I think that's very important. I think that's very academically dishonest. And these have been the answers that I have found when I have pressed forward and asked questions of those who support the Common Core, those who are trying to push it into our schools. As a math educator, I cannot stay silent any longer. The Common Core does not prepare students for careers in math, science, engineering. My father is an engineer. He wanted me to be an engineer, but I chose to be an educator instead because I feel very strongly about math education and how important it is for students. There's an overemphasis on problem-based learning and also this understanding of this concept of deeper understanding. Unfortunately, the net result of this is that you're going to have students at a young age that are going to memorize these complex things and then understandably forget them or mess them up because that's not the way that math is supposed to be, not ideally taught. Students who do well in advanced level mathematics are ones who have memorized the basic algorithm for addition, subtraction, basic arithmetic. Those are the students that can excel in advanced level mathematics. As soon as you have a student who has to be relying upon technology, they're already 8 steps behind the A game. Your brain works faster than a calculator. Did you know that? Your brain. even those of us who feel we have slow brains, they work faster than a calculator. I truly feel that these standards will drive away qualified educators with actual content knowledge out of the teaching profession. They're not rigorous, they're not internationally benchmarks, they're not good for students, for teachers, for communities or families. Let me say this as an aside. Wealthy families might be able to afford to hire tutors or pull their children out of schools to supplement the deficiencies that our students will find under Common Core, and I truly do believe that. The failed methodologies of reform math will only serve to hurt the poor and vulnerable the most and perpetuate a cycle of math illiteracy and poverty. And this is why I'm asking you to support House Bill 1508. I welcome any questions that you may have.
Pardon me?
I have any questions?
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Bowen and then Representative Cordell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for taking the question. I'm glad to hear that we have a teacher here and a math teacher, because I've taken some of the Smarter Balance tests, and
I have as well.
And do you find it a problem that we are going to have some outside organization rating the student subjective answers on how they got their answer?
I truly, yeah, I do.